Every 4 years, the World Cup is supposed to be the greatest show on earth. A celebration of football, a moment where the world sets aside everything else and just watches the game. But right now, one team at this tournament is dealing with something that has never happened before in 96 years of World Cup history. Not an injury crisis, not a training ground scandal, something far bigger. Something that involves a war, a border, a government, and a head coach who stood in front of reporters and used a word that stopped the entire football world in its tracks. What that word was, and what this team has been living through, is what this video is about. There are 48 teams at the 2026 World Cup. Every single one of them has faced some kind of challenge getting here. Injuries, form, qualifying drama. But one team's journey to this tournament has been categorically different from every other team on that list. A team that had to fight just to confirm they were coming. A team whose officials were denied entry to a country they were supposed to be guests in. A team that, when they finally arrived on the continent, did not set up camp in the host nation. They set up camp across the border, in another country entirely. That team is Iran. And the reason all of this happened begins not with football, but with a war that started in February 2026, when the United States and Israel launched strikes against Iran. Almost overnight, what should have been a routine World Cup build-up became something no football federation had ever had to navigate. Think about what that actually means. A country, at war with one of the three nations hosting the tournament, still qualifies and still wants to compete. And the question hanging over everything, for months, was whether they would actually be allowed to show up. The answer, when it came, was complicated. Players, yes. Staff, that's a different story. And what happened to Iran's support team before a ball was even kicked is something that has no precedent at any World Cup in living memory. Here is what they were actually dealing with. It started at the very beginning of the tournament process, the draw ceremony in Washington, D.C. in December 2025. Iran's Football Federation announced they would boycott it entirely because the United States had denied visas to senior members of their delegation. The federation president, Mehdi Taj, a man who sits on FIFA's own committees, could not get in. Only head coach Amir Galanoui was permitted entry. He attended alone, with one or two staff, specifically so Iran's seat at the draw wouldn't be left empty. The federation was clear. This was not them backing down. This was damage control. That was December, and it only got worse from there. When it came to the tournament itself, Iran were originally assigned a training base in Tucson, Arizona. At FIFA's suggestion, that was scrapped. They moved the entire camp to Tijuana, Mexico, right on the U.S. border, on the other side of California, because it was the only way to guarantee the whole squad could be in the same place. Even that compromise came with a price. 14 to 15 members of Iran's support staff, coaches, analysts, federation officials, media personnel, were denied U.S. visas entirely. The State Department cited security concerns, claiming there had been attempts to abuse the visa system. No further details were provided. No names. No specifics. Just a blanket accusation and a team that arrived at a World Cup missing over a dozen of the people who were supposed to help them perform. Their visas, for the players and staff who did get in, came with a hard cap. Less than 48 hours on U.S. soil at a time. Every match. Cross the border, play, leave before the clock runs out, go back to Tijuana. Every single time. And then, the day before their first match, Iran's head coach and captain stood in front of reporters. FIFA asked journalists to keep questions about football only. What came out of that press conference is something the whole world needed to hear. The timing of everything that day was almost impossible to process. Hours before Iran's opening World Cup match. Hours, not days. The United States and Iran signed a peace deal, officially ending the hostilities that had been tearing the two countries apart since February. A war, ending, on the same day the two nations' football teams were in the same city. Galanoui wanted to talk about football. He had said so. But when reporters pressed him about what his team had experienced, about the camp, the staff, the restrictions, he didn't deflect. This kind of behavior will negatively impact the spirit of football, he told the room. Whether we win, whether we lose, this is a difficult feeling. Beside him, striker Mehdi Taremi, a man who had played at Inter Milan, who had been in Champions League semifinals, who had seen elite football at every level, spoke about the atmosphere surrounding his team's World Cup. We don't have the same beautiful experience we always talk about. The peace, the joy, Taremi said. The sensation that people have looking forward to the World Cup. I think this time, maybe they didn't have the same experience. This kind of tension, it undermines that joy. He also pointed out it wasn't just Iran. The Somali referee denied entry at Miami airport. The pattern of who gets to show up at this World Cup and who doesn't. Taremi named it for what it was, not just an Iran problem. A football problem. The team then made their way to SoFi Stadium, 5 hours after leaving Tijuana, for a drive that should have taken 20 minutes. They played the match. And what happened after the final whistle, in the locker room and on the bus out of Los Angeles, is where this story takes its most remarkable turn. Iran and New Zealand drew 2-2, a point, a result that kept Iran alive in Group G. And the moment the final whistle blew, officials told the Iranian team to pack up and leave the United States. Not the next morning, not after a recovery session. Immediately, Gallinoi stood in front of cameras after the match and said what many people were thinking. We don't know why they are returning us, to be honest. It seems like others are doing the planning for us. The decision-making for us is being made elsewhere. We were supposed to come 2 nights before the game, and we were supposed to stay tonight to recover and return tomorrow at lunchtime. We have no idea why. And then the word, the one that stopped people. I think our team is perhaps the most oppressed in the World Cup. Oppressed, not inconvenienced, not disadvantaged. Oppressed. A head coach, at the FIFA World Cup, using that word about how his team was being treated by the host nation. Inside that same locker room, something else was happening. FIFA President Gianni Infantino had shown up. He visited the Iranian squad personally, telling them, and footage of this circulated on social media, "You are stronger than everything, and this is just the beginning." Infantino reportedly also told the players he would personally work to get more of the Iranian delegation visas for their remaining group games. Taremi, speaking to reporters, described what the team was dealing with at that moment. Everything is like disaster, actually, for us. He noted the absence of the federation president, the absent staff, the coach doing jobs he should never have to do alone. Our manager, for example, has come here doing the job of the media. FIFA needs to help us more. Promises from the president of FIFA in a locker room are one thing. Whether they translate into actual change, for Belgium, for Egypt, is something Iran will find out the hard way. Here's the part that makes all of this even harder to sit with. Strip away the politics, the war, the border crossings, and the 5-hour drives. Look at what this team actually did on the pitch. Iran arrived at that stadium carrying every single thing described in this video. The missing staff, the logistical chaos, the 5 hours on the road for a 20-minute trip, the weight of a nation at war with the country hosting their games, the peace deal being signed the same morning. And they scored twice. They drew 2-2 against a New Zealand side that was fully prepared, fully rested, and playing in the country they were welcomed into without restriction. The Iranian Football Federation put it plainly in an official statement that all of this had effectively denied the Iranian national team the opportunity for a level playing field and a competition free from discrimination. Whether every fan watching agrees with that language, the facts underneath it are not in dispute. When one team crosses a border under armed escort and has to leave before midnight while another team sleeps in their hotel, that is not a level playing field. It just isn't. Iran faced Belgium next, then Egypt. For both matches, the same routine. Tijuana to Los Angeles. Play, leave, go back. A World Cup campaign run out of a Mexican border city. A coaching staff stretched across jobs they shouldn't be doing. A squad carrying a burden no other team at this tournament has had to carry. The 1998 World Cup had a moment, United States versus Iran in France. That was called footballing diplomacy. Iran won that 1-2-1, and it was treated as a small miracle of sport transcending politics. 2026 is a different story entirely. Not sport transcending politics. Politics sitting in the dugout, on the team bus, and at the border crossing every single match day. Iran's group stage continues. Belgium and Egypt still to come. 2 matches that will decide whether this team, with everything stacked against them, makes it to the knockout rounds. The football world is watching, and not just for the score. Stay subscribed for updates throughout the tournament.